Hi, Julie. Welcome to my course. Thank you so much in advance for your time and looking things over. I hope it's useful for you, and it's certainly going to be useful for me to get your take on kind of what's going on here. So I'll kind of orient you to everything, and then I've got some focus things for you to think about for kind of the more formal part of the observation. Okay, so this is the welcome page that I always do. So it's got a picture of me, and then it's got just brief sorts of information about the course. So they see this a week before the course starts. But then after the course starts, this sort of welcome page switches to this announcements page. I really leverage this page. So, and it goes in kind of reverse chronological order. So each module gets a orientation video. Where they are, and you can kind of have a look at, you can choose just one to have a look at. And this is when and particularly for the, this is an online, as you know, it's blended, but Module 6 is online. So this is super important that I basically tell them what they need to do in the course. I also use this for, some teaching, usually some follow-ups from the face-to-face classes. So week 5 last week was a face-to-face, but we didn't really kind of get to this. I wanted to really kind of emphasize, so I might put that in an announcement. Some kind of practical things kind of go in there as well. But typically these are used for orientation to the modules. So, and they get emailed to the students as well. So let's go into and actually, let me show you kind of what's going on here. This gives you a good overview. So something that I try to do, and you can give me feedback on this, is have a variety of ways that the students are interacting. So I have the discussions, blogs, journals. I have 2 students who live in Arcadia, Wisconsin, and so they join for the face-to-face through WebEx. So that's why I put this up there. This is their a big project that they're working on that I'll show you later. And then this, one of the things that we're doing in this class is I'm both building knowledge about language as well as, so there's a theoretical component, there's there's a lot of exercises they do, and they do that through what's called this language investigation packet. This was the one from last course. They have a new one for this one, but this is just sort of as a reference. So you'll see in here a lot of reference to this language investigation packet. Jed and I developed this together as a way of getting them to kind of really focus on different language features and how those work in literacy and language development, and that's kind of the foundation of the teacher knowledge. So it's a theory to practice course. This is something else you can give feedback on, is how it's really hard to balance the theory they need to know about language, or that I think they need to know, with practical things they're doing in their classrooms. So on that note, let me show you a couple of modules where they're always working a theory to project, but specifically, so then this is what the modules look like, and Christine Mellon designed this for me. So module 4 was an online one, and here they needed to do they were working on 2 sorts of theory to practice projects. They were doing a group lesson plan, which is here. So then, all right, so then this is basically what a module will look like. And the objectives, there's always a to-do, and then there's a lot of redundancy built in. So this tells them what to read here, but it also tells them down here. There's the part of the language investigation packet. There's a couple of quizzes throughout, which are enabling me to test whether they're working on the packet and what's kind of working or not. I always have this notes. This one doesn't have much on there, but normally this is where there's usually a lot of notes. Okay, so they had to do these group lesson plan projects, and new this year, I had done them in wikis before, but they're in Google Docs, and students are really liking that. So you can kind of have a look here and see kind of what they're doing and what I mean by why I put them in groups instead of on their own. It's kind of interesting to kind of look at that. But they also did this Theory to Practice blog that I wanted to show you. So under blogs, you can see all the different blogs. Like this is the icebreaker one, which looks a lot like what we did in our online course. But the Theory to Practice blog is where they are basically, they had to choose something to apply in their own classrooms, and they kind of post them, and then they respond and they comment on each other. Although instead of commenting here, I actually had them do it on a Padlet just for fun, and that, to get to that, that would be here. So you can kind of see how they're responding to each other there. Here's the list of all of the different things they're doing. Now some students, they had the option of, instead of doing applying it in their classroom, which might have been hard for whatever reason, they could do something from our textbook, which is called Have a Go. So that's kind of what these are here. And that was again, a Theory to Practice from the textbook. So that's interesting there. The other thing to have a look at is, that I wanted to show you, is when we have the face-to-face classes, it actually looks the same. The structure is the same. And this was something that I had to kind of get my head around doing this. So even though they are coming to class, they still have, the readings and the videos, language investigation packet. And then there's an in-class activity. So this is a sort of a placeholder. So if they were in class, then they get 5 points for just participating and being there. If they missed class for some reason, then I do and then I'll put the handouts. But I also do something like this, so something that they can do to make up. And they just make it up, and they can get those points. This I find works really well, because they're adults and they feel very guilty if a kid is sick, or they get all stressed about that. And so this is just so they all know that there's a way to make that up. And then this was kind of where I introduced that Theory to Practice blog. So then lastly, where we are right now. So we are just finishing up Module 5. This is Module 6. And then Module 7 I haven't finished yet, so I have that hidden from them. But I did open up this, which is their final project, because some of them are wanting to get started on that. But let me show you, they're working on it's a 3-week kind of unit design project that they're doing in role play. And the reason we're doing the role play is so that, because there's not everything that they need to do that everyone needs to do for the unit, but the role plays are, and let me kind of show you, there's a Google Doc here. I'll show you one of their Google Docs. So they have a text. They're designing a whole unit around the text where they have to focus on language. And the roles are, they're up here. So designer, which would be what you would normally think of, somebody that develops the lesson. But then the SFL expert, so this person needs to basically explain the systemic functional linguistics terminology and why they're using why this is working and important in the lesson. And so they write about that, and then the liaison to the principal unpacks that and takes whatever the SFL person wrote and puts it in everyday language that a principal who's not familiar with SFL would understand. So experiencing all those, I think, is very useful. And then they have an option with their final project if they want to develop any parts of this unit that if there was a part that they wanted to design that they didn't get to, they can do that for their final project. But this so far is really working this as I've done these roles for 1 year already with 2 different classes, and I really like it. I like that it forces them to kind of think this way. So that is our Teaching Learning Cycle project that they've got. And and this one more thing. It's now going on almost 10 minutes here. Sorry. Something that they're doing a journal response this week, but I'm giving them a choice, either to do it as a voice thread or written. And I've done that before, and that works really well. About half choose one, half choose the other. Okay, so that's basically the course. So things that you can help with feedback are, again, the balance between the sort of the rigor that's coming from the theory, which is with this language piece, which my goal is for them to develop the confidence about language so that they can intuitively and naturally work this into their practice. And overall, the online format. So the goal is to enrich the learning experience and make it better than it would be just either purely online or all face-to-face. So to what extent is that working? And the workload. I would really love some feedback on that. Looks like a lot. I'm always feeling, I'm wanting to push them to really kind of delve into this material. This course does take a lot of hours a week from them. And so that, if you had some thoughts on that, that would be great. Okay. Thank you again. And I look forward to talking to you about this. Okay. Bye.